try
So
my best.
a balance needs to be
Yes.
maintained between those two also. So now let's from your job, now let's move to cricket, and let's talk something about cricket as well. So you would be quite involved in terms of and done a lot of research in about domestic cricket as well, because you've been reporting with Crickbuzz. So one question I have for you is that how has domestic cricket changed in the past years, in the time that you have been in the business, and how has it changed for local players, and how has IPL influenced the lives of these domestic players who do not get to be in the Indian team?
Yeah, domestic cricket has also definitely evolved. A lot more teams now. If you see Tripura, Mizoram, all these teams are also included. So if I'm writing, for example, even at the desk, suddenly at times we would be writing reports, brief reports. This is of Tripura, Mizoram, Nagaland. So these new players coming, getting a chance. Whatever it is, it might be in a lower league, lower division, but still they're getting a chance to show their wares. So of course, Tharuvar Kohli or someone goes and plays for some other team and does well. It's also giving a chance for this kind of players to move to other sides. So a lot more players are getting a chance. That's one thing. As far as uh, the quality of domestic cricket is concerned, what I would say is a few of the pitches I noticed they leave bit more grass for this Ranji. I'm mainly thinking about Ranji Trophy matches. I'm not too sure how whether this would help. Whether this would help players or not, I'm not too sure because I was reporting, of course, at the time from the desk. Madhya Pradesh versus Uttar Pradesh match. I was responsible for that particular match, last year's match. What I saw was this. I think it was Ravi Yadav. Yeah, Ravi Yadav got a hat trick, and there's good covering of grass, plenty of grass. It seemed like he was pitching it on leg stump and getting it to move it away towards the off stump. I'm not too sure whether it would help a particular bowler. After some time, what happens with this sort of pitches in India is it tends to stay low. So it's not helping the batsman either when the pitches stay low. If you go to, say, for example, England or say, even especially Australia or South Africa, you get more bounce. You won't see tracks staying low. So in that sense, maybe they might have to work something on the pitches. Of course, IPL is definitely. I feel it's definitely help domestic players. Think of some under 19 cricketer just suddenly, uh, say Abhishek, someone suddenly facing uh, Narkia or someone like Rabada bowling at 90, 92 miles per hour, hits the deck as hard as someone like Narkin hits the bat so hard. So where will someone like Samad or whoever it is suddenly will face a bowler who's at 6 feet 5 inch or whatever and get so much bounce in the Ranji Trophy. So, I'm not saying there aren't quick bowlers in Ranji Trophy. There are bowlers coming through like say Ishan Paral was last year's game. Bengal versus Karnataka. It was a quickish pitch, Eden Gardens, and he's getting good bounce. Not saying there aren't, but yeah, but this kind of quality facing bowlers like that, yeah, it definitely helps. And of course, the money factor also would help a player. Just think of a domestic player suddenly earning. I'm, I'm just giving some random example. Suddenly earning 1 crore or 2 crores, it gives him sort of stability in life as well, right? So IPL has definitely helped. It has definitely helped to give this domestic player that kind of confidence when you're mixing with international players, when you're facing this sort of suddenly you're facing Jofra Archer bowling at 150 kilometers per hour, or you're facing Bumrah. How many times would a domestic player face Bumrah in the Ranji Trophy? How many games does he play as a contracted player in the Ranji Trophy? Not many, right? So when you think of all these things, yeah, domestic cricket has definitely got better. There are a few things, as I said, pitches. There are a few other things that could improve with time, but it's the Indian domestic cricket. I think it is in decent to good shape, and of course it can still get better. Uh, that let us see how it would evolve in the years to come.
So since we're talking about players coming through. I'll take the question that I wanted to ask you later now, that why is domestic cricket, especially Indian domestic cricket, not able to produce all rounders? So we've seen recent yesterday's match also that we India has for quite a long time, apart from Hardik Pandya, not been able to find a proper all-rounder. So do you think that it is to do something to do with the pitches, or something to do with how we perceive batsmen on bowlers in domestic cricket or in their formative years, that that is leading to such a dearth of all-rounders?
It could be an overall culture, right? So, for example, I was discussing, say, 1 or 2 hours ago on Twitter itself. So you just
Yeah.
look at, say, South Africa, right from the time of, say, Aubrey Faulkner or Trevor Goddard or all the Proctors or the Rices of the world, or of course, Carlesis, Macmillans, or whatever, Klusners of the world, Pollocks of the world. They have this culture of, sorry, culture of producing the seam bowling all-rounders, fast bowlers. You look at India's culture, it's mainly about batting. We used to produce a lot of batsmen. In fast bowlers, we were not producing a lot of fast bowlers. And when we got one, of course, we got one world-class all-rounder in Kapil Dev, of course, even in terms of the pace bowler, we got one. And then we had someone like T.A. Sekhar, who's reportedly very fast, but there was no fast bowling culture for him to really come through, or for the matter, Halganecker. Similar thing with Salganecker. It's similar with, say, all-rounders. You look at, say, all-rounders, how many we had? We had one Lala Amarnath who could bowl a little bit somewhere in the 30s and 40s, and of course C.K. Naidu could bowl a little bit, or a Hazare could bowl some off cutters, and we had then one Bino Mankad or a Solkar doing a little bit of medium pace, brilliant fielder, and of course utility batsman. Then obviously Kapil, the one world class all rounder we had. Or even after that, Prabhakar, Ravi Shastri. These are all useful all rounders. The occasional Roger been used to perform well, or for the matter, occasionally these Madan Lals or
Hmm.
all these cricketers. So Robin Singh in one day cricket, but we don't seem to have that culture of producing all rounders, someone who could inspire uh, generation to take up. Now suddenly you see fast bowlers coming through, Shami, Bumrah, Ishan Sama. A generation will take it up. Even if I go to the grassroots level, what I hear is that at the grassroots level, they look at specialization, batting or bowling. This is they don't usually encourage someone to take up fast bowling or seam bowling or spin bowling alongside batting. Just you can connect it to, say, South Africa again. Think of, say, Lance Klusner. When I first heard of him, I think it was maybe South Africa versus England somewhere in 95, 96, just before the World Cup. Might have played 1 or 2 matches. What I heard then was he was a lower order batsman who could bowl very sharp. And when I first saw him, he was again very sharp. Not the medium pace bowler that he became after that ankle injury. He was very sharp, and he was more of a lower order batsman. Suddenly, in a few months' time, he was hitting a test 100 against India, because what happened was the South African backroom staff, the Bob Ulmers of the world and all these guys, they encouraged him to move up the order, encouraged him to become a sort of all-rounder. So I think it comes right from the grassroots level itself. When you uh, look at the grassroots level, if someone really encourages, a coach encourages in the formative years to become a sort of all-round youngster, to become an all-rounder, then perhaps you will get few more all-rounders. And then if you unearth a couple of all-rounders, 2, 3 all-rounders, you might inspire a generation to take it up. In the 90s, everyone wanted to become everyone wanted to become Sachin Tendulkar of the world. So where will you get that all-rounder, or of course at that time a fast bowler? Of course, there was one Srinath used to bowl fast, but how many fast bowlers would you get? So I think it also comes down to the culture. You look at, say, Australia as well. They used to, they still seem to look at specialization. Of course, they still specialist cricketers, bowlers or batsmen. Of course, they still have one Marcus Stoinis, they had one Andrew Simons or Shane Watson in limited overs cricket. But after Keith Miller retired from the game, I'm not too sure has been a world class all rounder from Australia either. So if you look at them, they also look at, say, specialists, batsmen and bowlers. So it could be sort of culture. If again, you go down to say Pakistan, they used to produce fast bowlers because there's a culture of producing fast bowlers. One fast bowler is unearthed, and then another fast bowler gets the youngster gets inspired. Wasim Akram or Wakar will get inspired, and few more fast bowlers they'll produce. So India perhaps had that culture of producing batsmen. Now, at least hope it's good that we are seeing a lot more fast bowlers. So hopefully, at the grassroots level, a few more sort of upcoming youngsters or promising cricketers, they would be encouraged to take up this seam bowling all-rounder sort of as a seam bowling all-rounder. Someone encourages it during their formative years. You might see a few more seam bowling all-rounders or spin bowling all-rounders coming through. I think it's mainly a culture that is missing.
So, apart from culture, I have one or two reasons that I can think of. One is, especially with respect to seam bowling all rounders, we see that now a lot more cricket is happening in terms of T20 and one day and test. So, in terms of longevity, if you are a pace bowling all rounder, you have a potentially chance of getting injured or those kind of things. So maybe people want to have a longer career, and that's why they do not want to take fast bowling. uh, and second, maybe you can that's purely theory, maybe you can comment on that, is basically the population. So now if a young player or a small boy or girl is going to the nets or going to a local ground to train or to something, so you have so many people that you would either get a chance to bat or bowl, so you might not get a chance to do both. So that's where you somehow tend to choose just one and concentrate on that. So
Yeah,
what would you think?
I definitely agree with your both your points. But what I would add is again I go back to that South African example of Lance Lusner. That there was encouragement. Of course, it was a different era. I agree. Now you have three formats. All that I definitely agree. But there was encouragement. There's someone who's pushing that particular cricketer to become an all-rounder. It's not known as an all-rounder, right? It's not exactly known as an all-rounder during his formative years, at least. So, when yes, definitely three formats, it plays a part. Think of injuries. Just look at Hardik Pandya, heard that he's trying to work on sort of, I'm not saying new bowling action, but sort of slightly different bowling action. So, it definitely plays a part. But what I would add is maybe during formative years, at the grassroots level, there could be a bit more encouragement from coaches or something like that. Maybe that some kind of culture is perhaps missing. So
Yeah, definitely.
that could play a part in unearthing. Maybe I'm not saying India would suddenly have another 5-6 all rounders or 7-8 all rounders coming through. It might you might unearth one all rounder, two all rounders,
Hmm.
useful all rounders. So that's what I'm saying. Of course, definitely it plays a part. This three formats thing, and as I said, India is India. You think of 1.4 billion population or whatever, and so many cricket enthusiasts. Everyone wants to become a cricketer, and you're thinking of going and training in the nets. So that might lead to specialists because what you can see. There's not much space. You either have to become a batsman or become a bowler. Of course, these things all come into consideration. But on an overall picture, if you look at it, I think you can connect it to sort of India don't have that
Culture.
really culture of producing seam bowling all round. So it's good to see that there are a lot more fast bowlers.
But chalo, let's leave aside seam bowling all rounders. But what is, do you think, is the reason that none of our top order batsmen? Uh, so we had a era where almost all of our top order batsmen used to bowl spin. So Tendulkar, Sehwag, Yuvraj, Raina, almost everybody uh, could pitch in for 2-3 overs, some days even more. So why has it shifted to something like a situation that is today, where none of the batsmen are even able to roll their arms for 1 or 2 overs.
As an outsider, it is hard to tell what exactly is taking place in a team dynamics, but it could be something like it could come down to on an individual basis. So, for example, Rohit Sharma, if you go back in years during IPL times, I'm not saying he was the greatest off spinner going around. If you remember, during some other time, the IPL used to turn his arm over, used to get wickets, important wickets. But it's just sort of, he doesn't really bowl now these days, right? So maybe it come down to as well individually if you really want to develop your other skill, or it might be also due to something else like say now at least in ODI cricket, if you look at that point about two balls are used. So if you want to become a part-time, if you become want to become a batsman who was a little bit of part-time spin, does that encourage if you say two balls are used? So does that encourage someone to take up part-time spin bowling? Because even the frontline finger spinners are getting absolutely tongued. You look at Jadeja yesterday. What opportunity? What exactly he had for him on a track with even bounce? All he could do was ball to his limitation, ball within his limitations, attack the stumps, zero in on the stumps, zoom it on the stumps, or ball the arm ball. So if a frontline spinner who has a brilliant record in Test cricket is reduced to that, so uh, what option would have a part-time spinner? What kind of options a part-time spinner would have? So that also might play a part, or it might come down to the particular individual, whether he wants to improve that other skill. As I gave that example of Rohit Sharma himself, or even I'm not saying Virat Kohli is anything great in that, but if, of course he tries to be like Chris Harris with his degree
Yeah.
doubles. But yeah, on an individual basis, but maybe if I try to improve somewhere slightly, you might have bowled 2 3 overs on a very slow pitch where it is holding up, where there's a little bit of grip or something. You might be able to bowl a couple more overs. So it might come down to on an individual basis. I'm not blaming anyone, but just saying it comes down to perhaps that particular individual whether he wants to improve that other skill, or he wants to become a specialist batsman, wants to improve that particular skill and become the next great batsman or bowler.
So I think we've had enough discussion there. So let's move to some other topic. So uh, now I'd like your comments on the Indian current Indian team. So we have a test team, one day team, and a T20 team. So what do you think are the strength? Like, do you think we are amongst like right at the top and we are doing everything right there, or do you think uh, there are things that needs to be changed in terms of approach in any format or something like that?
Across three formats, obviously India, if you look at the Indian team, it's definitely one of the best teams going around, or better teams, if not the best. But yeah, I can't say everything is going right with the Indian setup. If you look at the test side with the fast bowling unit India should have won few more tests in Sena. That's what I believe. Of course, this historic achievement. Whatever people say that Warner and Smith were missing, whatever critics say it was a historic achievement to go and win in Australia because India's fast bowling unit worked so well as a unit. They worked so well in terms of conventional swing, old ball swing, or sea movement. But on an overall basis, you look at the batsmen when we go to say New Zealand, when we go to England, they prepare tracks with a little bit of grass, decent covering of grass. There seems to be some problems against the moving ball here and there. That seems to be the template with even with South Africa. Suddenly we go to say, country like South Africa or New Zealand, the template seems to be if we get bowled out for 230, we'll try to bowl you out for 200 in our conditions. That seems to be how it is. So in that sense, maybe there are some problems with the moving ball. Of course, you can think of selections. A lot of things have been talked about. selections. I don't think I need to go again and again into it. For example, the dots test with so much moisture around. I'm just giving a random example. So much moisture around in 2018, India picked two spinners,
Yeah.
even with a wet ball around that. Didn't really make much sense. So that could be one more thing to think of. Obviously, then think of limited overs cricket. One point that we look at in limited overs cricket, obviously that a lot has been talked about India's middle order, India's sort of middle lower order, which sort of has struggled in ODI cricket in the recent past against the hard length or whatever you want to call it. In that sense, India are hoping that yeah, somewhere it's still not stuck gold somewhere. Someone like Rishabh Pant would really come good and take it to the next level. But yeah, there is something. There are some few positives in that sense. You look at say KL Rahul has been sort of pushed to 4 or 5, and in ODI cricket, I sort of like that move in a sense because I covered that particular Rajkot ODI and he was taking on the hard lens of Pat Cummins and all these guys. You have someone sort of slightly lowered on the order who can take on the hard lines. And yesterday, Hardik Pandya was taking on Hazelwood with Hazelwood's hard length with pull. So there are some positives. So there's maybe there little more spine in that lower middle order. But again, it come down to as this extra bowling option. India perhaps are again struggling with again Hardik's injury. It's not helping India's cause either. And as you said, the Indian batsmen don't exactly bowl. They're not part timers either. So there's one option that's missing, the sixth bowling option or whatever you want to call it. You suddenly look at it, England side, ODI cricket have. I'm not saying it's an all-rounder in ODI cricket, Ben Stokes, but it's still it's a sixth bowling option there for the England team. So there's something missing until Hardik Pandya, of course, gets fit. And then again, look at T20 cricket. There are a couple of players who come in, go out. There are question marks over someone's strike rate, strike rate, or
Hmm.
Manish Pandey's strike rate, 120, 125 strike rate, whether it really works. So yeah, there are a few things, bottlenecks that need to be worked on an overall basis. It's definitely easy. For a team like India presently, I don't think it's a big thing to reach semi-finals. You expect this Indian team to reach semi-final. Expected them to reach semi-finals of the 2019 World Cup. You expected them to reach the later stages of World T20 in 2016. But can they take that next step? Whether they can take that next step, and that perhaps depends on a few things, whether they can get it right. Obviously, question marks have been raised on Ravi Shastri's
Hmm.
as a coach as well. So yeah, there are a few things. So on an overall basis, you look at. I feel this, especially in Test cricket, this team had a good chance, a solid chance of at least winning one more series other than Australia.
Hmm.
Insane with this fast bowling unit. If you can't
Yeah.
achieve with this fast bowling unit, when will India achieve
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
because had a solid, very if not a great fast bowling unit, this is definitely even if you consider 143 as a test cricket, this is a very good fast bowling unit.
Hmm.
Obviously, you might look at limited overs cricket and say yesterday also I was telling that maybe in limited overs cricket, Indian fast bowlers don't use cross seam and all
Hmm.
these cross cutters, but at least in test cricket, they definitely have a very good fast bowling unit. So when you look at the potential, it's about whether India can take that next step, whether India can take it to an elevated level, whether they're satisfied of just reaching semi-final of an ICC tournament, or maybe as for 2017 the final of ICC Champions Trophy. So whether they can take that next step or not, I think it could depend on a few things whether they can improve on.
Yeah. So, d- one question I would have follow-up question is that do you think all these combinations in terms of selection, so is select people who are selecting the teams, the BCCI selection committee, do you think they are supplying the players and the coach and the captain are managing with that, or do you think that is what the ask is from the captain, and uh, so there is lack of clarity or lack of strategy there?
this is something as an outsider, it is very hard to tell because obviously I'm not involved in this selection.
But you would know more than us because
Yeah,
you are covering it.
yeah. I've heard all kinds of stories, all kinds of things. Whether these things are true, whether these reports are true, insider information also. Obviously, I've heard whether these things are true or not. I can't really say that. So as an outsider, it's hard for me to tell. See, based on sources, based on insider information, I can definitely say particular thing is happening or something like that. But without verifying it, I'm not too 100% sure how it is taking place or uh, between the selectors and the captain. But generally, if you look at say history, Indian history, captains don't exactly have a this sort of uh, great say in the Indian selection meetings. But it might be different with Virat Kohli or MS Dhoni over the last 10, 15 or 12 years. We have seen MS Dhoni pushing out certain senior players during this time, and during Virat Kohli's time as well. I've heard, yeah, we see someone who's a powerful sort of captain. Is a very assertive captain. So in that these things I've heard. So on that basis, he might ask for certain players. That I can definitely say that heard enough that he's a very sort of assertive, powerful captain. That doesn't mean I'm saying it in a bad sense. That could also definitely come in the equation. But what exactly takes place? As I said, I've heard a lot of insiders information, but speculation. There's no real verification or confirmation for me to. So this is how exactly it takes place between the Indian selectors and yeah, the Indian captain.
So as a fan, we should blame them jointly as of now
Yeah,
that they
yeah.
are unable to
But
get the right 11.
there's a lot of insiders information that keeps rotating, but yes, nothing you can really confirm to see what exactly is taking place between the selectors and the captain.
So, since we're talking about BCCI and the captain, I'd like to bring in that recent controversy that has happened between Rohit Sharma being not there in with the team in Australia. So, what are your views? Is it more like a mismanagement from BCCI in terms of giving out the news or sending out information to the cricketing community? Or do you think there is actually some rift between Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli, and that is resulting in something like this?
So yeah, this is again I have to go as per sources and insiders information. But what I hear is that it could be a problem from the BCCI's operations team as to how it was managed, especially in relation to I'm hearing this Rohit Sharma's father was taken ill, and that is why he didn't travel and all this stuff. So what I'm hearing is that the problem could be with operations side of things. So that is one thing I've heard. So yeah, it has been a sort of mismanagement if you look at it from right from October 18th right till here. Roy Sharma has been talking, Ravi Shastri has been saying things, Sunil Joshi has been at the NCA. I mean, one person is saying something, Rohit Sharma on the on in one of the IPL matches, maybe it was the final or just before the final, he said, "I'm completely fit." And Ganguly just on the same day, I was writing this PDI reports. Ganguly was saying he had a tear or something, and we have to be cautious. So this is been what can I say? It's like a throwback to say somewhere '96 or something when then suddenly now the Singh Sidhu disappeared on June 1st or June 2nd of '96 away from England. He just sort of came back, returned to India. So this is like a throwback to some other time when there's so much of miscommunication. You don't exactly know what is happening, what exactly is taking place, or you go back to the time during that World Championship of Cricket in 1985, it is believed that the Indian team was selected by Sunil Gavaskar and one more person in the car. In the car itself, the Indian team was selected for that World Championship of Cricket. So it's like a throwback time where there's so much of miscommunication. You don't expect that in 2020, someone like Virat Kohli coming and saying in his own words, quotes, that there is no clarity, there's absolutely no communication. So with so much of advancement in technology and so it's cricket operations, there. I mean, look at, for example, if I were to take an interview of a cricketer, woman cricketer, related to Indian cricketer, how to go through various steps of BCCI. So there are different departments, so many departments, so cricket operations have to think of different managers. So when you think of so many channels of communication, still they couldn't really communicate, then this definitely there is a lot of miscommunication. Again, as far as Rift is concerned, yeah, obviously stories, as I said, would float around. Even now, stories are floating around is something we have seen over 3 decades, right from the time when Gavaskars and the Kapil Devs of the world were around. So it's something that's, again, as I said, it's very hard, difficult to comment as an outsider. But there is definitely massive miscommunication going on between the different departments of BCCI and the Indian setup or the Indian backroom staff or the Indian think tank. There's definitely, there are definitely bottlenecks, hurdles around.
So recently, because Rohit Sharma was not available, KL Rahul became the vice captain also. So do you think that was a temporary move, or since now the selection committee is also changing, they are looking towards saying that now we need to have a younger deputy who can take over the reins and continue for a longer time?
I think it could be mainly because the sort of selection committee has changed. So maybe they're looking at a slightly different they have slightly different vision or something like that. Again, you look at Rohit Sharma, he has had his hamstring issues, soft tissue injuries, and all this stuff. So that way they're looking at, in a way, there's sort of slightly different vision or something like that in the future. So it could be that.
Okay. So, really, thank you for coming on the podcast, and I hope our listeners would like it. And we look forward to having you again.
Thanks.
So,
Thanks.
thank you, Bharat. Thank you for coming on our podcast.